Traditionally, people watch reviews to answer the question, should I play the game? With the spoiler-free section of this video, the answer to the question in this case is technically yes, you should play the game, but there's a few complications you should know about before you do. If you played Spider-Man for the PlayStation 4, you've probably been waiting for another script of the same quality, but I regret to inform you that you won't find it here. The banter is embarrassing.
This should be over soon, if you'll just bear with me!
The dialogue in Spider-Man 2 often feels like it's made in a factory by people who don't care. Except you know deep down they do care, because other elements of the story keep patting themselves on the back with pride. It was during a particularly painful mission involving a high school flashback that I knew for sure something was wrong. I looked up the writers for each of the games, and true to my suspicions, Spider-Man 1 and 2 had entirely different writing teams. These are not the same writers who brought you Octavius's tragic journey from lovable mentor to irrational madman, or the same writers who had Peter's insistence on putting the weight of the world on his shoulders double as the city's only hope and his biggest weakness. These are the writers who took the character whose motto is do the right thing even if it kills me and said, but what if he committed breaking and entering just for a nostalgia trip? Without spoiling anything significant yet, I will say that the groan-worthy moments come less often later in the game, not because they figured out how to be funny or anything, but because the focus shifts to things that are harder to not make cool. If there's one thing the script does well, it's set up grand situations. Where things still fall flat, even when the game gets better, is with the characters, who aren't built to make you feel what they want you to feel. For example, a hefty aspect of the stakes in this story is betting on you caring about Harry. But you won't. And I was frustrated that Peter was constantly thrown under the bus for his shortcomings, while the other characters' shortcomings are portrayed as justified. I kept asking, why is Peter the only one who needs to apologize? So why is it that I would suffer through such a script and still tell you that the game is worth playing? Because combat, that's why. Do you like mastering when to dodge and when to parry? Do you like inflicting more damage than any human can survive and still claiming you don't kill people? Do you like punching people so many times their bones turn to powder? Do you like bosses that don't know when to quit? Then step right up and mash that square button until everyone not named Spider-Man ceases to exist. And with that, the spoiler-free section of this video has come to a close. From here on, I'm going to be complaining about the specifics of the story in detail that surpasses excessive. We begin with a recap that does not refresh your memory on things that are actually relevant to the game's story, like Harry Osborn's sickness, Yori's traumatization, MJ's frustration with being the damsel in distress, Black Cat being an irredeemable liar who Miles would have to be an idiot to trust, or Peter's struggle to hold a job. I think the real reason they put the recap in was because they knew a lot of you didn't play the Miles Morales game, so they were getting you up to speed with that. We then have a flashback where Harry is put in a tank for reasons you would know if you played the first game, but not if you watched the very helpful recap. Fast forward to today, and Miles wastes no time in getting Peter fired from his teaching job.
Bathroom? Okay. I need your help.
Sandman is attacking the city, and it's not like Miles can handle a supervillain himself. I mean, who do you think he is? Spider-Man? Miles doesn't even get scolded for ditching class, but Peter is fired for abandoning his post. Back in my day, we didn't ask the teachers to help us with supervillains. We fought 2 supervillains at the same time on our own. I realize that the recap didn't tell you about it, but this is the same Miles Morales who told Peter Parker not to come back from vacation, believing he could handle a villain war himself in the last game. But now here he is sacrificing Peter's job because he needs an adult. Also, I hope you enjoyed fighting the giant monster that one time, because there's no other boss fights that big for the entire rest of the game. After Sandman is locked up, there's a flashback, which I dubbed over with better dialogue. Kraven, you are an old man, and old men get death. Have you seen the average IQ test results? It is your generation that gets death. I've been standing right behind you for days, and your Gen Z attention span kept getting distracted. You put up no challenge, you fools. I asked you to bring me an opponent with no powers, and you brought me an opponent with no powers. Sir, have you tried fighting opponents with powers? You have blown and broken my tiny brain, Daddy. What? Yes! To America, where the real men live. Peter goes home and gets a visit from Harry, who just got out of the chemical tank. Peter is so happy to see Harry again after 2 years that he puts up with a stupid bike riding segment. You want me to ride a bike? Do you know who I am? Peter, when I was trapped in a tank for 2 years, the one thing that gave me hope was the thought of riding bikes with my bestest... Alright. They ride to the school they used to attend, and Harry reveals himself as the bad influence he is by peer pressuring Peter into breaking in. You want me to commit breaking and entering? I'm a globally recognized paragon of law and morality. Generations of children learn right and wrong from watching me. Oh, my leg! It hurts, and the only thing that will soothe my pain is a warm nostalgia with my bestest friend in the world, who I haven't seen in 2 years, and who I've asked to do only one. Fine. Harry forced me to shoot hoops with him, and I deliberately missed a shot or two out of spite. And intermixed with this madness is a flashback to another occasion in which they broke into the school. Except this occasion is worse because they end up wasting the time of a lot of police officers, and it includes Harry's ear-murdering singing. The flashback ends with Harry finding out his mother died, and you know what? Good. He deserves to have a dead mother. In present day, Harry offers Peter a job which did not require this regrettable adventure to set up. Next, Spider-Man and Spider-Man are tasked with... You know what? If female superheroes can put girl in their name, then Miles can put boy in his name. After all, we like female superheroes with girl in their name, don't we? We like Stargirl. We like not that one. Yes. We like Supergirl. I get the concept of anyone can wear the mask and Black and Latin people can be Spider-Man too, but they don't even have nicknames for the public to use other than original and new. Even that insufferable toddler show had the sense to give them individual nicknames. If this version of Miles couldn't be bothered to provide us with one, then I dub him Spider-Boy. So Spider-Man and Spider-Boy are tasked with watching over prisoner relocation. Those prisoners are Scorpion and Martin Lee, who are both in the first game. This makes things complicated for Spider-Boy, because Martin Lee killed Spider-Boy's father. Kraven's legion of adrenaline junkies attack the ship and kidnap Scorpion and Lee. During the attack, Scorpion stabs Spider-Boy with his hallucination juice. You might remember that, in the first game, Peter got stung by a scorpion and he had to create an antidote. But apparently Scorpion's juice has racial double standards, because when Miles is injected with it, the effects just wear off after a few minutes. Spider-Boy finds Martin Lee and almost pulls a "you killed my father, prepared to die," but he doesn't have the guts, the cruelty. He almost saves Lee, but he's interrupted by a new kind of electricity his power started creating, which gets confusing, because to me it seemed like a reaction to Scorpion's juice, but Miles later talks like Martin Lee caused it somehow. How Martin could have done that while tied to a chair on the other side of a metal door is unimaginable, by the way. But it's clarified that Martin Lee didn't do that, so the only explanation is the power was inside you all along, and that's not a good payoff for a mystery, so they probably shouldn't have framed this new blue electricity as a mystery in the first place. Anyway, Scorpion and Martin get taken by Kraven. Harry takes Peter on a tour of the Emily May Foundation. Their mission is to heal the world. Now, part of me wants to like the fact that this part of the story is at least trying to present possible solutions to world problems, but it's hard to pay them any compliments because they have no idea what they're talking about. There's a scientist trying to stop honeybees from dwindling in population. She talks like the whole world depends on honeybees, but she doesn't seem to know that there's other types of bees that can pollinate plants. Did you know that in America, at least, honeybees are an invasive species, and the Native Americans were doing just fine before they got here? I would bet that the Emily May Foundation didn't know that. There's a presentation that talks about organic matter on meteors being a possible explanation for what they think is the mystery of how life came to the planet. Because apparently these people who we're told are very smart couldn't read a Bible, much less any one of the scientific research conclusions that told us that there's not enough probability in our universe for a single human organ to be the result of evolution. And Harry tells Peter to his face that he chose members of the board not by the content of their character, but by the color of their skin.
Installed a diverse board to keep us on the right track.
And as if that wasn't dumb enough, one of the top scientists around here has been wasting weeks trying to figure out children's puzzles that the average gamer can piece together in a couple minutes. Even Peter isn't immune to the stupidity that the Emily May Foundation breeds. There's a side mission where you test an electric bike and it's about to explode. Instead of turning the exploding bike off in this populated area, Peter just continues the test run, hoping he can get to the end before... But Peter is not the only Spider-Man who does something stupid which the game wants you to think is smart, which makes you think the game is stupid. Oh no! Miles also pulls a facepalm move and expects you to be proud of him for it. Black Cat is in town, and Mary Jane tells Miles specifically that Black Cat is a liar who will say anything to manipulate people and cannot under any circumstances be trusted.
Be careful with Felicia. You can't trust her, no matter what she says.
This version of Black Cat has previously lied to Peter about being pregnant with his child, just to trick him into helping her with the heist. Those are the actions of a person who has revoked their right to sympathy. Black Cat steals a magic portal opening relic and tells Miles that she needs it to escape to Paris so she can help her girlfriend.
She needs me now.
Let's consider the facts. Black Cat has a long history of manipulation. She even told Peter she was pregnant with his child. In the many years I've been watching Spider-Man material, I have never known Black Cat to be interested in women. The only evidence that she has this imaginary girlfriend is a conveniently placed letter that Black Cat easily could have written herself. She just stole a valuable artifact and she's made no implication that she intends to stop stealing. So, Miles' options are: A. Ask Black Cat what kind of fool she thinks he is and take her to jail. B. Defer to the judgment of people who know Black Cat better than he does and take her to jail. C. Say, cool story, but you're still a thief and the French police can help your girlfriend, and take her to jail. Or D. Ignore MJ's advice, not make Black Cat answer for her multitude of crimes, and help her escape to another country. If you would have selected A, B, or C, you would make a better Spider-Boy than Miles. I know that Kraven's hunters were after Black Cat, but protecting Black Cat from them should mean handing her over to the authorities. It should not mean give her whatever she wants. She's Paris's problem now. Doesn't Paris have enough problems? I don't know how Black Cat knew Miles would do anything to be recognized as an LBGT ally, even pull the game over for a homecoming proposal, but she knew what she was doing somehow. I know that Black Cat gives the Spider-Man a tip later, but I don't care. Black Cat has a history of kind of giving barely helpful help when she wants to soothe her conscience, intermixed with her history of lying to get what she wants. The tip she gives them does not conflict with that. And I wouldn't care if the writers told me personally that Black Cat was telling the truth. I don't care if Black Cat hires someone to pretend to be her girlfriend in the next game. I don't believe her, and I never will. The gang goes to Coney Island where Harry gets introduced to Miles for the first time, and thus begins an infuriating subplot where Miles is constantly sore over Peter spending time with his long-lost friend.
Guys,
This is my best friend, Harry. He just got back from overseas, and he's starting up a new research foundation.
You mean we're starting up a new research foundation? Hey, good to meet you.
New job, huh? Still gonna have time for tutoring?
I might not like Harry's character in this game, but from an in-universe perspective, he's Peter's best friend who Peter has been separated from for 2 years and gives Peter a much-needed job. And Miles is annoyed that that friendship is getting in the way of Miles taking up even more of Peter's time, when Peter has already given him everything. Miles never shows any sensitivity to Peter needing to spend time with Harry, or recognizes that Harry is providing Peter with a job that replaces the job Miles got Peter fired from. Miles just keeps saying, "But what about me? You're still gonna dedicate half your energy to me, aren't you? Why don't you leave your job orientation to take my calls?" Miles is constantly making everything about him and demanding that Peter, who has his own problems, focus on him. Because it's so hard being Miles Morales. He has it so rough, doesn't he? He's got a living and loving mother and uncle. Unlike the last of the Parkers over here, his girlfriend never tells him to check his privilege when he saves her. He has extra superpowers, and if anyone criticizes his character, they're called racist. Isn't that so hard? Maybe Peter should give him some reparation cash out of his severance package. And not only is Miles displeased to not be the center of the universe, he bails on the whole gang. He doesn't even take a minute to see his love interest's art project, because he had to fight his way out of a tampered with augmented reality game. And that's too much for his poor little heart to take. I mean, who do you think he is? Spider-Man? You know what, I think I'll just speedrun through the rest of this, at least for now. Maybe I'll make another video about this game later. I'm quite upset with MJ because later in the game, Peter's actions are being affected by the symbiote, and MJ throws him under the bus, even though Peter has still been saving the day, and even though she knows that the suit is messing with him. She writes this news article about him doing more harm than good, when the harm was clearly not his fault. She publishes it publicly, and she expects Peter to understand her reasons for doing it. And of course, she never apologizes for it because Peter's the only one who needs to apologize for anything. Later in the game, they talk about MJ's struggles in a way that should be interesting, but I constantly had in the back of my mind, okay, but where's my apology? And then there's the ending to the game. This had better be temporary. And I mean, we'll try it for a few days and then we'll never do it again temporary. Peter wants to be Peter Parker for a while and let Miles be the only Spider-Man for at least for now. They imply that Peter's gonna be back, but still, are you kidding me? I only allow Miles Morales to exist under the condition that he not be a replacement. And what is this all of a sudden talk about us only needing one Spider-Man around? The game begins with Miles getting Peter fired because Miles couldn't handle a villain attack by himself. And Peter got thrown under the bus for not asking Miles to help him with Lizard, because apparently it takes 2 Spider-Men. But you're telling me now that we only need one? But I will say that there are plenty of positives in this game. The stuff that they do with the symbiotes, especially later in the game, is really cool. The combat is fun, and they put a lot of care into the details of building the city. There's even something that I have never seen in any other video game. Normally, you look through the windows and you see these generic copy and paste, low-res 2D images. But in this game, they actually put in a variety of different people and decorations in the various apartments. They even animated the people inside those buildings a little bit. And while we're talking about positives, even though there's some examples of them doing representation at all costs, creating problems like boring side missions or double standards between the Spider-Men, there are some good things to be said about the representation in this game. There's this side mission where you see these exhibits about African Americans. There's even a side mission where you talk to this lady who has a bunch of Christian crosses around her porch, so that was nice. So let's talk about suggestions for how to do better with the next game. Suggestion number 1, different writers. Okay, that's a little bit harsh. Well, I mean, on one hand, I mean that, but on the other hand, get someone who doesn't suck doesn't sound like constructive criticism, so let me try that again. Suggestion number 1 for whoever is writing the next game. Throughout Spider-Man 2's script, I saw so much excitement over ideas they didn't seem to question. The writers clearly thought that they had all the answers to everything, but they seem to be too drunk on pride to actually question themselves on anything. More often than not, the game will give you a one-sided view of something, and the writers didn't seem to really look into what are the complications of this. It just felt like they wrote down their first instinct on these matters and didn't look back. There's also a few problems with them wanting to do something that they hadn't set up. I already talked about these things before, but not in this context. With Black Cat getting help from Miles, there was no preamble to get you to think she would be telling the truth, and there was nothing to convince Miles that she had changed her ways. What happened was there was these ideas that they wanted to do so badly, and they just shoved it right in, even though it only conflicts with what we've seen before. And another example of that is, of course, the ending, where they decide on having only one Spider-Man for now, when they had spent almost the entire game telling us that we need 2 Spider-Men. That way of writing is just such a because I said so mentality that creates such baffling decisions. So those are things that the writers of Spider-Man 3 should be wary of. Also, I want Spider-Man 3 to get a lot better at creating faces, because the faces in this game seek deeper into the uncanny valley than Polar Express. I'm sick of realism being an excuse for ugly characters. There's plenty of attractive people in real life. Also, MJ's character needs some work, not just her face. With this version of Mary Jane, they really wanted to delve into, talk about her grievances, and having her stick it to the establishment, but they seem to have forgotten that MJ is at her best when she's fun, and this version of MJ is found wanting in that regard. If they just concentrate on the grievances and the arguments and the disagreements, you start making the player wonder what they're actually fighting for, because there's not enough fun stuff between MJ and Peter in this game to make the relationship seem worth fighting for. I mean, yes, they had the carnival games and rides with MJ, but it was kind of lackluster and there wasn't much after that. And if they insist on MJ being a playable character, then they should just give her superpowers. Those taser segments are ridiculous. The story keeps telling us that MJ is so important. Their energies would be better spent making her valuable than telling us she's valuable. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and enjoy the combat even if you don't enjoy the story.